Hey y'all, welcome back to this week's Q&A. I'm Katie, and every week I take a little time to answer the questions that you've submitted to us via YouTube and our website on a wide variety of admissions topics. If you're applying to college soon, visit us at the link below to sign up for an account with CollegeVine. We're a free guidance resource that calculates your chances of getting into specific schools and offers free profile recommendations, essay guidance, and a whole lot more. Check us out online at app.collegevine.com to learn more. If you'd like to submit a question for us to answer in a future Q&A video, go ahead and leave that question in the comments below this Q&A video. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're the first to see when we post our latest Q&A or any number of other helpful college admissions and test prep videos. Let's get started with today's questions. Our first question for today is from Will, who wrote in to ask us, how do I figure out how many credits I get per class? Well, thanks for writing in. This is a pretty simple question to answer, but I'm sure it'll be really helpful as you do your credit math. So to start with, we'll assume that you're talking about high school classes rather than college courses. Credits in high school are essentially points awarded for passing a class. Most high schools and most states, for that matter, require a certain number of credits for graduation, usually somewhere between 18 and 24. In general, a year-long academic high school class is worth 1 credit. So, for example, your honors English class, your AP biology course, and your US history class would all be worth 1 credit. At some schools, that credit might be divided into 2 semesters, such that each passing semester is worth half a credit, 0.5 credits. Other classes that are not as heavily academic, like PE or studio art, are usually worth 0.5 credits for a year-long class. These type of classes are usually elective classes. If you're not sure how many credits your classes are worth, the guidance or registration offices at your high school should be able to answer that question for you. You should also be able to find out how many credits you've earned so far in high school per course, so how many credits each of your courses are worth, by taking a careful look at your transcript. And remember that you can always request your transcript from the main office at your school. Hopefully that credit math answers your question well, and thanks again for writing in. Our second question today is from someone with the username Speedster145. This person, Speedster, wrote in to ask, what are the Public Ivies? Well, as always, great question. As you enter the college admissions process and start deciding which colleges you want to apply to, you'll probably hear the term Ivy League being thrown around quite a bit. Well, the Ivy League refers to 8 private colleges that are all located on the East Coast of the United States. The term Ivy League originates actually from the Ivy League Athletic Conference, but it's become synonymous with the world-class education and elite selectivity of its 8 member schools, the 8 schools in that athletic conference. The official Ivy League universities are the University of Pennsylvania, Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, Columbia, Brown, Cornell, and Princeton. However, there are some universities that are just as prestigious, just as selective, and just as intellectually fulfilling as those official 8 Ivies. But due to their status as public universities and the fact that they do not compete in that athletic conference, the Ivy League conference, they're not considered part of the official Ivy League. These colleges are commonly known as Public Ivies. Richard Mall's 1985 book, The Public Ivies, A Guide to America's Best Public Undergraduate Colleges and Universities. By the way, we're going to link to that in the comments below. That book lists 15 colleges and universities that warrant this Public Ivy distinction. Those are UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC Irvine, UCLA, UC Riverside, UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara, UC Santa Cruz, Miami University of Ohio, the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, the University of Texas at Austin, the University of Vermont, the University of Virginia, and lastly, the College of William and Mary. Those schools, those universities, are known for their superb academic resources, an abundance of programs and classes, and high rankings. Some of the academic departments at these Public Ivies actually rival those of the Ivy League universities, depending on which program you're referring to. One of the biggest differences that you'll find between the Ivy League colleges and the Public Ivies is the size of their student populations. Public Ivies tend to have a larger undergraduate student population and a higher student-to-teacher ratio. For example, the student-to-faculty ratio at Harvard is 7-to-1, whereas the student-to-faculty ratio at UC Berkeley is 18-to-1, so more students at UC Berkeley for the amount of teachers they have. Another significant difference is cost. This is perhaps the biggest argument in favor of going to a Public Ivy. For in-state students, the cost benefits of attending a Public Ivy versus an Ivy League school, or really any private university, can be tens of thousands of dollars saved. However, for out-of-state students, on the other hand, the cost benefits of attending a Public Ivy are a bit more complicated and really depend on the school in question. Some public universities offer cheaper tuition than others, but you'll generally find that out-of-state tuition at a public Ivy is no more than a few $1,000s less than tuition at a private Ivy League university, just because you're an out-of-state student. And relatedly, another consideration is acceptance rates. While the acceptance rates at public Ivies are still low by contemporary college standards, they are not as low as the Ivy League acceptance rates, which are usually in the single digits. As a general rule, you probably have a higher chance of being accepted to a public Ivy than an Ivy League university. However, and this is a big caveat, you should know that acceptance rates aren't the only factors that can affect your personal admission or lack thereof to a university. For example, many of the public Ivies are mandated by their state to accept a certain percentage of in-state students. So UNC needs to select a certain percentage of North Carolina students, for instance. So if you're applying to a public Ivy from out of state, you may be walking into a disadvantage in admissions. When asked, should you apply to the public Ivies? The answer is, it depends. It's up to you to consider the factors that I just spoke about and make your own decision based on what your profile as an applicant and what your specific priorities are. Best of luck with your college search, and thanks for writing in with that great question about public Ivies. Today's third question is from Sanjana. Sanjana wrote in to ask us, I am planning to apply for medicine, but all volunteering and research opportunities that I can find in my area are for people aged 18 and above. How should I build my extracurricular profile? Well, firstly, don't worry. It's not an unusual situation to find yourself in. And in fact, we hear this often from students who are trying to build an impressive portfolio of extracurriculars, but are 16, 17, not quite 18 yet. The good news is there are plenty of ways to become involved with and prepare for a career in medicine without exclusive volunteering or research opportunities. Here are a few ideas that you can consider. First of all, remember that volunteering doesn't need to be done through a formal program, nor does it need to be in a clinical setting in order to be relevant to your medical application. If you can't get involved in a clinical setting, you may still be able to volunteer in fields that directly relate to healthcare. Reach out to local public safety or public health offices to ask if you can help with any of their current initiatives. You might be able to design flyers promoting seatbelt safety or give a presentation to elementary school students about healthy eating. You could even help to publicize flu immunization clinics or a blood drive in your local community. While these types of roles don't necessarily put you in a doctor's shoes, they will serve as strong evidence of your dedication to promoting the public health and community-centered wellness, which are a crucial part of a medicine application. If you can't find a formal role through an organization that matters to you, you may also be able to create your own initiative. You might think, what public health issues are facing your community? What issues affect your family or your friends on that really local level? Perhaps you have an elderly relative in an assisted living facility or a friend whose family struggles with transportation. Think of issues in broad terms and then try to come up with ways that you can help. Then also organize to bring others on board as well. Soon you might have a whole team of high school students meeting weekly to play board games with nursing home residents, or have organized a rideshare program between all of your friends. If you're interested in studying medicine, service or volunteer work is really almost a prerequisite for a successful application. So if you can't find a formal program or organization that will accept help from teens under the age of 18, you want to highlight your ability to take initiative by creating your own opportunity within your community. And if you can apply the same ambition to research opportunities, you'll also be in a great spot. Proving your ability to participate in scientific research will set you apart in the field of competitive pre-medicine applicants, and you can prove that dedication to research in several ways. First, you might consider competing in a science fair, and you might set a goal of advancing to the regional, state, or even national level of that science fair. If you plan on entering a competitive application, consider finding a mentor scientist to help guide your research. We have some advice for doing just that in our blog post, How to Choose a Winning Science Fair Project Idea, and we're going to link to that post in the comments below so you can check it out. If you're interested in advancing to science fairs at an even higher level, be sure to check out options such as the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair, the Google Science Fair, and the Regeneron Science Talent Search. Any of those competitions are really prestigious, and winning them will definitely set you apart in a competitive field of pre-med applicants. Of course, these options are not the only ways to prove your commitment to a career in medicine. There are truly a multitude of other extracurriculars that are commonly offered through high schools in the United States, and any of these clubs can also reinforce your interest and dedication in the sciences and medicine. You might consider joining your biology or chemistry club. You could participate in Science Olympiad or the U.S. National Chemistry Olympiad. If your school doesn't offer any of those activities, you can just consider starting your own club at your high school. In any case, we salute your ambition in medicine and best of luck finding a great opportunity. Our final question of the day comes from Rick, and Rick wants to know, in what year of high school is it best to first take the SAT or ACT? Is it sophomore or junior year? Thanks for writing in, Rick. We certainly hear questions about testing timelines often, and we're glad to have the chance to address them here on our YouTube channel in this Q&A series. For best results, we do recommend the following timelines. I'm going to give you one for both the SAT and also the ACT, or you can combine the two until you identify which test format works best for you. But heads up, they're pretty similar timelines, no matter what you choose. Let's talk first about the SAT. Step 1 is to take the PSAT 8 or 9 in your freshman year, and then the PSAT 10 as a sophomore to get used to standardized testing. Step 2, in the summer before your junior year, take a practice SAT to get a sense of your baseline score. That practice test can be something that you administer yourself at home, or you can attend a formal practice test at a prep center. For instance, Princeton Review offers free proctored paper and pencil practice tests, which are a great way to really get in that testing environment. Step 3 is to study to take the official SAT for the first time in the fall of your junior year. That usually means an October or a November test date. Step 4 is to sit for the PSAT or the NMSQT as a junior. If possible, aim to complete your SAT prep before that PSAT test to increase your chances of qualifying for a National Merit Scholarship through good performance on the PSAT. Step 5, if you're not happy with your first score, study to take the SAT again in your junior spring. And then step 6, if your score still needs some work, prepare to take the SAT one final time in the late summer or early fall of your senior year. Now let's talk about the ACT, but you're going to notice that the steps are pretty similar. Step 1 for ACT prep is to take the pre-ACT in your sophomore year to get used to standardized testing. Step 2, in the summer before your junior year, take a practice ACT to get a sense of your baseline score. That baseline test, once again, can be administered at home, or we would recommend attending a formal practice test at a prep center, like those free proctored exams offered by the Princeton Review. Step 3 is to study to take the official ACT for the first time. Once again, that's usually an October or November test date in the fall of your junior year. Step 4, sit for the PSAT as a junior if you want to qualify for a National Merit Scholarship. If you do want to do that, you should do some PSAT specific studying if you're aiming for national merit, because if you're only studying for the ACT, you will find that the PSAT is a bit different in structure and content. Step 5, if you're not happy with your first score, study to take the ACT again in your junior spring. Step 6, if your score still needs some work, prepare to take the ACT one final time in the summer before your senior year. Only take the SAT or ACT in your senior year if you are really pretty positive that your score is going to increase substantially. Typically, we highly recommend finishing up testing before your senior year, just because that senior fall tends to be really busy applying for college and also participating in classes and extracurriculars and trying to live your life as a high school senior. Remember that these are just guidelines. If you have extenuating circumstances, your testing timeline might be slightly different. It may make sense to skip some of these steps or to shift your timeline earlier or later. For example, if you're going to have really substantial commitments in your junior year, you might consider taking the first exam at the very end of sophomore year. Or if you take an SAT practice test and discover that it's really not for you, you might switch over to the ACT and head on to that timeline. Whatever approach you take, we do strongly recommend against sitting for the SAT or ACT more than 3 times. You are unlikely to see substantial increases in your score after 3 attempts. Finally, recognize that studying for the SAT or the ACT is a serious commitment. The more focused you are during your preparation the first time around, the less likely you are to have to take the test a second or even a third time. Really, you save a lot of time and stress in the long run by setting aside 2 to 3 months and studying really intensively upfront for that first test. For more tips on how to build the best test prep schedule, check out a few of the blog posts that we've linked for your convenience in the comments below this video. Thanks for writing in, Rick, and good luck with your standardized testing timeline, whatever it might be. With those 4 questions, our Q&A for today is all wrapped up. Thank you to the 4 of you who submitted those great questions, and I'm glad we got to talk about a really wide range of topics in this video. Don't forget that if you have a question that you want us to answer in a future Q&A, remember to give us that question for the next video in the comments below this video. We'll review the best questions and answer them next week. See you soon for our next Q&A.